Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brock Beard from lastcar.info, and welcome to Behind the Wall, the post-race show that comes on after the race. We're unofficially pending the results of post-race inspection. Tyler Reddick has pulled off his second consecutive Cup Series win, the first driver since Matt Kenseth in 2009 to do so. And as I posted earlier on there, that streak did not go so well for Kenseth with the last place finish with an engine failure in Las Vegas the next round. We will see what happens at the Circuit of the Americas next week, where Tyler Reddick is a past winner, much as Kenseth was a winner in Las Vegas before. But all that is next week's problem. Right now, a tremendous start for 23XI. Both, I guess you could say, like, really all three of the teams off to a very good start here. I mean, yes, Riley Herbst had accidents in both of these. One of them while, helping Reddick for the win last week. And in this one here, even after, he was involved in one of the many accidents that we had in this race, and he came back out there and actually gained a few spots. So had, salvaged a points day where pretty much everybody else that was involved in a serious accident in this race today really didn't get back out there, and he was able to capitalize on that. So actually kind of looking at the results here, 33rd place finish. Actually came within about 4 laps actually of catching Kyle Larson. So the multiple overtime finishes actually narrowed the gap on that a little bit. But first and foremost, for Reddick, again, pulling off the win with damage to the right front fender. Even at the track that's been reconfigured in this sense to be, this mini super speedway, tremendous accomplishment. Very similar to what Bubba Wallace did in the Daytona 500 a couple years ago, where the left front fender was missing in his battle with Austin Cindric in 2022. And Bubba himself looked fantastic in this race, led a lot of laps, was right up front there, had a battle with Hocevar there at the end. 23XI is firing on all cylinders, and they're looking very, very strong at the beginning of this year, and it's going to be interesting to see how much that carries over next week as well. But a solid race. I would still say not quite the best race of this weekend. I think the O'Reilly Series race was absolutely outstanding. It was very much what this track is purported to be. For people who are big fans of it there, having a super speedway racing, but handling becoming more of a factor. We saw a bit of that in this race here, but I think with this car, it seems to mute the effect of that a little bit. But we did have some very, very tight racing up front, and similar to kind of what we saw in the Truck Series race on Saturday morning, I got the sense of it being, kind of venue where it reminded me a bit of the 2001 Talladega episode of 500 Days just posted a couple of weeks ago there, where anybody trying to make an advance on one of the lanes really had trouble kind of getting up there. At least on the Truck Series side, Cup Series side maybe not as much. It seemed like this was more of a case of particular drivers being rewarded for having high aggression, and Reddick was certainly one of those. He was making some very big moves. Carson Hocevar certainly was, Ross Chastain as well. You hear so much in a lot of these races where you really don't want to be too aggressive or like really early on. And in this track here, it seems so much more forgiving for that, because when somebody makes a really bold move, it's like everybody else is standing still. There were descriptions about this in the driver interviews there, for example, with Reddick and his rallies there towards the end. And I would definitely apply that to Hocevar. He made so many of these dive bomb moves into turn one to try to get around the pack and actually get into the battle for the lead. And, my brother was kind of watching that too. He's like, well, look, every time he tries that, he keeps dropping back to like 6th or 7th again. It's like, well, look, then just do it again. I mean, do it as many times as the tires will stand and actually try to make some aggressive moves up there. And, I think other drivers are learning that along the way. Certainly had our share of cautions this one, 10 cautions, and the unofficial results here from that. And again, the multiple overtime finishes there. But it doesn't feel as completely out of control as it had before. I think drivers are starting to kind of figure this out, and that they can make, really bold moves where they're able to kind of get up there, up at the front. So I did enjoy that in this race today, and I feel like it played out very well in that sense. But again, Tyler Reddick pulling off the win ahead of Chase Briscoe. Briscoe with that almighty shove that got him past Carson Hocevar there coming to the white flag. Hocevar tangling with Bubba Wallace in turn one, dropping him back in there. Daniel Suarez, his teammate, much as Hocevar had done with Kyle Busch in the Truck Series race, was right there with him in the mix there. Suarez, the winner of that 3-wide photo finish here a couple years ago, coming home in the 5th spot. Chastain in the 3rd spot there for him. Shane Van Gisbergen building off, again, that great run he had at Daytona before getting in a wreck in the 500 last week. This one here, he spins out into the infield grass twice, comes back and finishes in the 6th spot. So again, no matter, you can have some attrition and some real, bad luck there in Daytona last week. But if you get some serious damage, you're not going to get back in the mix. That's one thing that this track seems to really kind of capitalize on, is guys can get right back into it again. Hocevar with his flat tire in the early stages, loose right side window, had a vibration getting back on the track, him getting back up into finishing in 4th. Van Gisbergen with his 2 spins getting back up into the 6th spot there, doing a fine job out there. You can pretty much, write a story about just about anybody in the top 10 here at the same time. So kudos to the drivers there for putting on a good show. Zane Smith from Front Row Motorsports was in and around the top 10 all day. Seems like we said this before with Todd Gilliland. Unfortunately, Gilliland got a bit more damage in a couple of incidents there in the middle stages of the race. But Zane and that 38 team were right there in the mix, finished in the 7th spot. Bubba Wallace there in 8th after dropping back with the altercation with Hocevar. Ryan Preece and Ryan Blaney rounding out your top 10. Fine job by all of them. I mean, they put on a really interesting show. I didn't get the same sense of this race being the game of red light, green light that we had during the Suarez win there. And I'm not willing to be, saying like, oh, we were wrong and the old Atlanta wasn't that good and this track is so much better. I'm not quite there yet, but I will concede that I am seeing the track evolve in the way that a lot of people have been, where everybody's kind of in formation. They can't really go anywhere because you got the yellow line rule and you got the super speedway package. It used to be more of an issue in the O'Reilly series. That definitely changed course this week. It seemed like it's shifted more a little bit to the Cup series there this week around. But it is getting there. You are seeing handling issues. You're seeing cars snap loose. We saw with drivers like William Byron and others, where there's turbulence in the draft, cars kind of bouncing off each other, sometimes to an inexplicable degree. I still don't entirely understand what Kyle Larson was thinking when he was coming down the track and, spun himself off of Van Gisbergen there on the inside, taking the blame for it in his interview. But at the same time, seemed like just kind of a bizarre situation. Same thing where Kyle Busch got shaken out of the draft and clobbered the backstretch wall. Glad he was okay after a pretty hard hit on the back straightaway there too. It's getting better. And I didn't get a sense from this that everybody was just waiting to, the last stage of the race there, or the last, the last overtime restart to position themselves, because, it was, it was a bit more aggressive, that sense. So again, I think we're getting there. I think we're finally getting there, and that's good to see. And I think this was a very solid race here on the Cup Series side. It would have been nice if you had a longer green flag run to the end, because it seemed like when you had a couple of these runs, especially in the 3rd stage, and seeing people, again, like Hocevar, making moves over and over again, dropping back, getting back up there, and being able to make it up there, and who was able to kind of work their way in the draft, that's where it gets really interesting. But, again, when you have, that many more drivers able to get back in the mix despite having damage, you're going to get that kind of a mix this time around. So that's certainly good to see at the same time. Looking throughout the pack there, Chase Elliott just outside the top 10 there. AJ Allmendinger looked very good. Denny Hamlin got his nose beat off a couple times in a couple of incidents there, still finished in the 13th spot. That was surprising. Noah Gragson and Chris Buescher, both involved in incidents, got back into the top 15 to finish. John Hunter Nemechek, didn't see as much of him in this race as we did in Daytona. We got some nose damage back in the 19th spot. Michael McDowell in 20th. Christopher Bell, heartbreak for him. That late race restart, I was at first questioning Hocevar's aggression because it reminded me so much of his first Truck Series win, where he kind of stuck his nose there in the middle and, kind of forced somebody else to kind of basically wreck themselves there. But, in Hocevar's defense, he was getting just a monster shove, and there was just nowhere for him to take it, really, at that point. And you had two drivers that seemed to have there was a little bit of a hole there, but it closed up very, very quickly. And that's another hazard of this track for, it being much smaller. Even when the cars are going a bit slower around the track there too, somebody could go for a spot and then that closes and it just looks like you're making just a completely imbecilic move. But just because the hole closes at a rate quicker than the car can actually get to there, that was really a factor in what we saw in the last place battle here too. That shook things out. So again, I can't be too critical of Hocevar. I think that was more a consequence of the track itself. Although again, it did remind me a bit of that Truck Series win, that first victory he had a while back. Other drivers with some struggles further back in the pack. Austin Cindric got hooked after William Byron's late race bad luck. Cindric had looked, good in the late stages there, but unfortunately ends up back in the 26th spot. Eric Jones fighting handling issues pretty much all day, was at the back of the field. He ends up in 24th. Connor Zilich wrecked out towards the end of the event there, back in the 30th spot. J.J. Yaley with the same brake issues that they had on the New York Racing injury last week. Those came back and dropped him back to the 31st spot. We mentioned Larson earlier. Riley Herbst gaining those spots there after his incident. Again, climbing from 36th to 33rd in the closing laps. And then Ty Gibbs and Josh Berry at the back of the field. Again, same incident there. You had Christopher Bell was kind of, really catching up on the inside lane, turned a 2-wide battle into a 3-wide battle. At the same time, a little bit of a hole seemed to open up there between Alex Bowman and Josh Berry for about the 15th spot, and Gibbs was going for it, and it didn't. And ordinarily, if Bell weren't there on the bottom, or maybe a slightly different part of the corner, probably would have been just a brilliant move. Unfortunately, Gibbs, you see the onboard camera from Josh Berry, Gibbs just comes at a camera right, nothing he can do at all. Crosses the nose of him there and spins himself out. Ends up having a big incident there. Glad to see Ty Gibbs and Josh Berry okay. Unfortunately, that was the end of their day, and this being about 81 laps into the race there too. And Josh Berry gets his first last place finish of the season, his first since a streak of 3 that began a disastrous playoff run in 2025. This time coming around here and getting the first last place run for the number 21 since March of 1980, with the late great Neil Bonnet driving the Purelator Mercury, having an early issue in that race there. And that one actually, Bonnet very nearly didn't get last place because another driver blew an engine on the same lap there too. So kind of a similar situation to here with a couple drivers dropping out at the same time. So, I don't really have, honestly, too much to say about the Cup Series race today. Again, I think it's another step towards the positive evolution of this track. I think it was a solid race. I'm so anxious to talk about the O'Reilly race, and I'm going to get into that here pretty soon because that one just blew my mind with how competitive it was and how the track adapted to those cars in particular. That was really something to see. We'll go through some more of the field here at the same time. BJ McLeod in the 35th spot. Didn't have sponsorship this week. Unfortunately, got collected in the incident with Riley Herbst and Ricky Stenhouse off turn 2 and dropped him out of the race. He completed a few more laps to get to 35th. So again, we'll see how things shake out for him, even though he's more of a part-time organization, and find out what's going to be happening from there too. Austin Dillon with a hard hit towards the end of the race. We saw some video I just retweeted on the account showing Dillon hitting the inside pit wall there. Luckily, it reduced speed, so none of the crew members were endangered there. But I was very concerned about the stance that car had after the incident. Seemed like there was so much damage to the left side. I thought a wheel came off of it. As it turns out, it just got banged around in traffic there. And Morgan & Morgan got a bit more sponsorship exposure, although probably not the way that they would have preferred it to be in this case here too. But yeah, I mean, again, good racing at the front of the field there and made things really interesting at the end. And again, good to see Daniel Suarez have a good run there for Spire Motorsports. I like seeing his aggression. I like seeing aggression rewarded here and there. I'm glad not every race is like this, though. I think that I am anxious to see how these cars do on the road course here, and especially with the different horsepower package and so forth. And we'll find out what we get here at the same time. But yeah, again, solid race, and congratulations to Reddick there for the win. Good to see Michael Jordan at the track there, and being able to enjoy these. And yeah, we'll see how much further Reddick can continue the streak next week. If it's another win at Coda, or if it's, whatever else the deal is, it's going to be very tough. I think that next week, without jumping the gun too much here, got to be looking at Van Gisbergen for, again, not just his road course prowess, but the fact that that was one that kind of slipped through his grasp last year. Didn't quite have the right strategy on the Cup Series race, and ended up losing that one. But again, for how well he's performed on these ovals to start off, I think that's going to be one fun thing to look at. And then, yeah, where's Connor Zilic going to be in the mix there? Is a switch going to flip? He's had a rough deal here for these two super speedways, but that's not, unreasonable to expect. That would certainly happen with other, newcomers in the sport here. I think he's going to be just fine next week. Although that was the site of his debut last year, where he got an early altercation with Suarez that damaged his car. But, again, sometimes it takes a bad day to have a good one. And maybe that'll be the case there for him to have it at the same time. So we'll see what happens there. But, yeah, solid race. Happy with a lot of the performances there. Not quite as much chaos. I like seeing a bit more of the green flag racing. That was definitely the best part of it. And they put on a great show out there. So congratulations again to Reddick on the win. I'm sure, have we seen the point standings yet? I guess we haven't seen that at the moment, but we'll see what the deal is there too. Where is it? Here we go. Driver point standings. Yes, unofficially still showing Reddick as the point leader, 40 points over his teammate Bubba Wallace. So again, lots to be happy about over 23-11. Chase Elliott up to third, Carson Hocevar in fourth, and check out Zane Smith in the fifth place spot in points after that, trying to steal the win away at Daytona last week. And again, looked very good out there today. And Zane, no slouch at the road courses either. That'll be another one to look at. Rest of your top 10 in points, this unofficial, again, pending the results of post-race inspection. Joey Logano in sixth, Daniel Suarez in seventh. So again, a good start here for the Spire team there with two of their cars in the top 10. Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski, and Chris Buescher rounding out the top 10. So again, RFK Racing represented well here as well. So we'll see what's going on. Some other drivers further back in the rankings, Kyle Larson back to 21st, Kyle Busch 24th, and Denny Hamlin 27th, and Christopher Bell 31st after a couple of incidents here. Right front hits in both these races, being very costly, the points there early on, but see if things turn around for them. So, yeah, again, don't have too many more notes there. Yeah, I was watching Hocevar for a lot of this one, so that's why I was kind of mentioning him a lot on this, but very impressed with everything that he overcame, kind of like watching William Byron last week at Daytona. Yeah, I'm glad that you're able to come back from things in this racetrack, and you're also able to make some really bold moves and not have everybody just start screaming at you or something. It's like everybody starts trying to make the same moves you are, and I think that's another good way to look at that too. So, without further ado, let me get into the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race here, and a big congratulations to Sheldon Creed. My goodness. 15 second place finishes. How many times have we talked about on this show where, how many times he's come close to pulling off a win? What was it going to take to be able to get over the hump? And Haas Factory team as well. The reorganization of that program. I talk a lot about that team out there because I still think they don't get enough credit for how good they've been and how well they've been able to manage the transition after the collapse of Stewart-Haas Racing out there. I'm very impressed with that organization, and they had to take on even more with this year and this manufacturer swap to Chevrolet. And how about that? In the second race after that swap, they get out there. Sam Mayer wins the pole. Has similar bad luck that we saw with Hocevar in the race today. Had a flat tire early on, battling for the lead with Taylor Gray. Loses laps, gets the laps back, gets up there into the top 10, and is up there and finishes in the 7th spot. It's unfortunate he tore the car up after celebrating with Creed at the finish, but, these things sometimes happen, especially when you get as much rain as we did this time here. But Sheldon Creed was up there the entire day, led 17 laps, was a great pusher. for whoever was up front there. And then at the very end, when it comes down to Ross Chastain and Austin Hill battling for the lead, and they get crossed up, and Austin Hill, again, I'm just as tired of him winning the super speedways as much as anybody else, but what a tremendous save that he made after contact from Ross Chastain, getting that thing pulled back up on the track, didn't wad up a bunch of cars there too, still salvaged a solid finish, 12th place finish there under the circumstances. Just tremendous there for him, especially for how many cars, 19 were still on the lead lap. Great effort there for him. But Creed comes off turn 4, the acolyte of Robbie Gordon, gets out there and pulls off a win. And what a wonderful moment. And I'm glad everybody's celebrating it for what it is. And again, it's a story that really deserved to have more attention, up to this point. And it's good to see. I saw some people talking about it on YouTube here. Of course, there was that one video. What was it? Was it LA Productions that did that one? Showing all those close calls he had over that time. Those are the kind of storylines that you really want to be able to follow in there. And it makes a win so much more memorable in that sense. And again, he was right up there the whole day and put together a great effort. So I'm so happy to see them doing very well there at the same time. So a great effort there for Creed and the Haas Factory team out there, and a great day really for that whole organization there as well. They put on a good show. I was just wearing my 41 hat yesterday at the same time there, and I had to run some errands, so I apologize we didn't get some live updates there from the back of the field. That's why my updates are a bit later that night, but I watched the highlights of it afterwards, and just incredible racing. I mean, if the racing is going to go the direction of what we saw on Saturday, today was okay, but again, I'm not totally geeking out about it right now, but I'm still just beside myself from what we saw in Saturday's race there, in the O'Reilly race in particular. Everybody was just absolutely hanging on out there and still making those crazy moves and still coming back from early misfortune out there. Made it very compelling. And the runs, the closing rates that people had, we saw some pretty good elements of it, but it seemed like some cars had it and some didn't. In the O'Reilly race, it seemed like just about anybody that was in the field could do it. One driver, I thought, just watching it live and not knowing really who was going to win, I thought Nick Sanchez was going to win it. Coming back from last year and winning for Big Machine Racing, and he gets out there in this race here for AM Racing that hasn't won a race yet, and he's up there. He was making some incredible moves out there. And I thought for sure, I mean, even though Creed was looking really good and Austin Hill was looking as unstoppable as he's always been, Sanchez looked like he was just knifing through the field and just making just incredible moves. I was very, very impressed with him there. And I hope that's a good positive sign for AM Racing going through these next few rounds here. It's always hard to tell at the super speedways versus the rest of the year. You get to the downforce tracks, you get to the road courses and the short tracks, and see if they can keep the momentum going. But going from 28th to 3rd there, and looking good doing it, I was very impressed with him. I thought he was going to drive right through the leaders and pull that off. So he was so much fun to watch. And not to skip over who we're looking at in second spot here too. Parker Retzlaff, backing up his runner-up finish at Rockingham last year, has to be the best finish that we've seen out of Viking Motorsports to this point. And the first race that they get both their cars in the show with Anthony Alfredo getting the 96 in there, they didn't go as well for Alfredo back in the 25th spot. But again, a big step forward that they wanted to take to get to be a two-car organization. And I'm glad it hasn't taken away from that 99 team. That was a very fine run out there. And maybe this is going to be a good home for the driver that's been bounced back and forth between RSS Racing and Jordan Anderson's team and Alpha Prime. This could be where he needs to be and make that 99 car his own. I was very pleased with how well he did. At one point, it seemed like he was going to get shaken back. It was about 7th or 8th, got back up there and was in second. Such a fun run out there for sure. So that was definitely one eye-opening deal there too. And again, mentioning Sam Mayer, Raja Caruth, it got mentioned here by Bubba Wallace just tonight in the Cup Series one. After seeing last week where Raja was up there and trying to get the lead from Austin Hill at Daytona, doing very much the same thing here and getting up there and just taking the lead. I like that he's still, again, maintaining that aggression and rising to that level that this track demands there too. He was so much fun to watch in this one too. I mean, the number of drivers that were fun to watch was way more than the ones that weren't as much, and I think we had a really competitive race. We did have a bit more attrition in these two races, both the Cup and the O'Reilly race, than we have in the last few years, which made the last place battle sewn up a little bit quicker than we'd seen before. And of course, this leads us to a bit more of the controversial figure of the Saturday afternoon race, and Corey Day. Corey Day seems to be, unfortunately, still trying to figure things out. That number 17 car out there, and unfortunately being in the wrong place at the wrong time and making excuse me, making the wrong decisions at the wrong time too, which is unfortunate. I have to agree. I think that, for whatever reason, he's just a bit of a dart without feathers. We saw that out of him at Martinsville last year. It's a high-powered ride. That Hendrick car, of course, is great. Every bit as much as Raja Karuth's JR Motorsports effort with a similar paint scheme. But the man is getting involved in way too many incidents out there. And I don't know what the solution is to it necessarily. But that whole deal at the beginning there, the one that swept up both the Sieg brothers, was just way, way too early to make some kind of a move. But again, consistent with what we did see here in the Cup race today, this track has a way of making a fool out of you. Again, you could go for a hole, it looks like it's there, and then you could watch a replay from someplace else, and you're wondering, what the hell is this guy thinking? If it were just that, I'd be more excusing of that. But I mean, again, much like we saw at Daytona last week, it just seemed like the car is like almost out of control. It's like, get some, communicate some new handling into that car, what they need to do to get that thing pointed the right way. Because, these tracks require such precision that if you're just off just a little bit, you could be cleaning people out on both sides of you. So that was definitely an issue. And we saw some big hits from that early wreck there. Unfortunate to see both Ryan and Kyle out of the race. The first time that two siblings finished in the bottom two spots. I got a lot of questions as this race was progressing, if that had ever happened before. But stayed up a bit late last night, was kind of going through my stats. And I've only checked it with the O'Reilly series. I haven't looked at Cup or at Trucks yet. But at least in the O'Reilly series, it had not happened up to this point, which is pretty miraculous. If you think about the Waltrip brothers or the Wallace brothers or the Jeff Green and Mark Green and David Green, any of those, it just didn't happen. Just never really happened at the same time. It came close. There was one, I think, where Jeff Green was last and Mark Green was like third to last. It was very close. There was actually a time where Michael Waltrip, when he won at Dover in 1990 in the Country Time car in the O'Reilly series, Darrell Waltrip got last. So you kind of had that where they bracket the field. But again, not the same situation that we saw this week. So didn't realize it was that rare of a situation, but it turned out that case as well. Similar to what we had with the father-son statistics. That's been a bit more common. We had John Hunter Nemechek and Joe Nemechek before. Richard and Kyle Petty had that happen at Darlington in the Cup Series before. A bit more of a mix there at the same time. But, an unfortunate deal there at the back of the field. Blaine Perkins, Harrison Burton involved there as well. Joey Gase's team is really off to a very difficult start this year. We talked about the Natalie Decker wreck last week after their other two cars failed to qualify. This time they only entered two cars, and both of them did qualify, but Gase blew an engine, and Chad Fincham ended up actually with a 17th place finish. So solid finish there on that end there, but still, that's about the one highlight they've had this season after what's been a pretty rough start to the year here as well. Rest of the bottom 10, you got Justin Allgaier, Carson Kvapil, Cody Ware, Sammy Smith, and Jeremy Clements there at the bottom part of the field. Cody Ware looking to compete with his brother Carson after his 19th place finish last week at Daytona. Unfortunately, some mechanical issues. Had something to say about that back in the 31st spot. Excuse me for a moment. All righty. Oh, seeing the question there about which number is the most wins in the O'Reilly series. I'm not sure offhand. I know that we have that stats by car number on the Racing Reference, but I'm not sure if they put one. Did they do one for O'Reilly on here, or is it just Cup Series? I'm not even sure. That would be an interesting one to find out. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the same. I'm sure it's not the same distribution here at the same time. Andrew man, 48, thank you for joining the Bottom 10 Finishers. Hope you enjoy the part 3 of the story of Kenny Irwin Jr. And yes, for those of you watching, that will become public as soon as I get a new video done for that level. And that's why I'm prioritizing kind of shorter videos that are on subjects I've currently done on the channel there. So that could be something that could be done relatively quickly. Maybe not as quickly as the main channel, but something close to it. Actually, it's something I'm working on as well that I think will be, hopefully I can get it done this week. That'd be great. We have 103 people in here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate you checking it out. I've just finished talking more about the Cup Series race here, and we'll get into Super Chats as well. Oh, I want to talk about the broadcast. This, I definitely need to clean up here as well. Yeah, I guess that's mostly what I have to say about the race in itself, but I'm anxious to kind of watch the finish of that again. And again, sorry about this. Sorry about the jump scare there. I just got the audio here from the clip. I want to get to the last few laps of this and just enjoy this here because what we had there on the CW side, I'll just say it right off the bat. And I said it on social media yesterday after watching this. You know, I've not been a big fan of Adam Alexander. I've been very critical of his broadcast. I think that he gets distracted with a lot of stupid stuff sometimes. And it's frustrating to me because the man knows ball. He knows all these drivers. He knows every little bit about it, and he could be really interested in it. But sometimes he's just a little bit too laid back. He's just and he, you know, they get into these segments where they're just laughing and they're just, you know, doing all that. And meanwhile, stuff's happening on the track and they're just not noticing it. Nobody's perfect, you know, but it just never seemed like it was really improving. And we saw a little bit of it when CW started, and it was better, and then like things kind of tapered off a little bit. But in this broadcast here, if people are ever unclear about why I complain so much about all this, or what does winning look like what is a good broadcast, you just need to watch this one from Saturday's race. This was absolutely everything that it needed to be, and Adam Alexander did it. He took command of it. McMurray and Kligerman in the booth there were right there with him, and made it as memorable as it needed to be. Excuse me. And it was great. It was great. It still takes my breath away. So there we go. But let me get to that. I'm going to pull this up. We'll do the second screen here. And I want to relive it, honestly. I mean, watching it at home here, my jaw was on the floor. I'm like, man, this is getting really, really good. So let's see here. Let me get to second screen on here. And I think this is, the final stage here with the last 7.
At Atlanta. Once again, Sheldon really connected to the 32 there. Ross Chastain. Brandon's into the bumper of the 21. They disconnect.
Big run on the outside by the 2. He's going to be able to get to the 0-0. Is the run going to come from Sheldon Creed now to go for the lead?
Look at Nick Sanchez getting aggressive in that 25. Sam Mayer is right there, a part of the equation. Chastain goes down low in front of Hill.
Chastain's going to try to manage these 2 lanes.
Such a good call. I love already how he's bringing up other drivers that are further back in the pack and who's having a run, because that was the big thing, the closing rate of everybody coming up.
Behind him, the 0-0, Sheldon Creed and Austin Hill, extremely fast cars tonight.
5 laps left.
Sheldon had to cover there through the second dogleg. Jesse Love, who's looking the inside, almost going to make it 3 wide, it looked like, for a second. That slowed a little bit of his momentum.
Yeah, Jesse Love being super aggressive. You see him trying to kind of force the issue through the middle. Brandon Jones is all over Austin Hill. You see the back of that car dancing around.
Oh, Sanchez up the middle, making it 3 wide. He's trying to go back-to-back in Atlanta, 4 remaining.
Fantastic. Bringing up the pass to win. Love it. Love it. Oh, my God. And this move through there. And seeing Sam Mayer back in the mix after all the bad luck he had.
Which he does. What a move to the middle. Now Sheldon has to block this. He doesn't. Nick Sanchez to the inside.
AM Racing has never won in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series.
Very
Could
good.
It be a delivery for Nick Sanchez? He's up to second.
Very
Jesse Love
good.
is there.
Very
Austin Hill
good.
making a rally. All
More.
behind Ross Chastain with 3 to go.
Oh,
Watch the
perfect.
two-car
Yep,
right
get
here.
the
double
laps.
zero is all over him. He's gonna have
Build
a
it
little
up,
bit of
build it
momentum.
up.
Can he do anything with it?
Got to the outside of Nick Sanchez. Beautiful move there, puts him right behind Ross Chastain when he's going to need some help.
Jesse Love, the reigning champ, is trying to make a late rally.
There we
side
go.
by side with his teammate for second. Sanchez starting to fade. Here comes Creed again in the outside lane. Parker Retzlaff is there. Don't forget about Sam Mayer.
You can't
There we
get
go.
Austin Hill.
Get
We
as
know
many
how
people as
good he is.
possible.
It looked
You
like
got
he
all
was
these
out of it
people
a
the
while
shot. Give
ago.
them their moment.
Chastain leads 2 to go.
Perfect.
Sheldon
Count the
needs
laps.
help. He needs
Love it.
Retzlaff to get there. Somebody to the rear bumper. There's Retzlaff, but now 21 of Austin Hill clears him. He's going to have that push from Sheldon Creed.
He's gonna have one lap to try to get it done.
Trying to
The
get it
two-car
through
coming
there.
Back on the inside.
Look
Look
at
at him go for the lead right here into turn 3.
Crossover. Here's Austin Hill down to the inside.
Whoa.
21 back on point. He slides up in front of Ross Chastain. White flag is out.
That was a hell of a
One lap to
move.
go, sponsored by Credit One Bank. Hill trying to repeat.
If
Yes.
you're Ross, you've got to get this
Do that
run.
Bob
You gotta
Jenkins
back
thing.
up.
Get that octave
Over
up
two, if
there.
You don't have to run here. Hope there's
Crack
some
the
help
whip,
there
baby.
from Sheldon on the outside, or Jesse Love if you choose the bottom.
Boys, Austin Hill has done it once again. He's put himself in the right position to win
Here
a
comes the
sixth
run.
race.
What does he do with it? To the bottom.
Chastain
Oh,
goes there goes Austin Hill.
Sheldon to the
He
lead.
hangs on to it. Here's Sheldon Creed out front, looking for his first career victory. He's going to do it. Sheldon Creed delivers at Atlanta.
Nailed it. Nailed it. Absolutely dominated that. My God. Inject that into my veins. That was fantastic. That was an absolutely fantastic call. That would fit right up there with both of them spin or, 20 years of trying or anything else. That is so good. So good. And all the things that are happening, there's so many moving parts. And, this Atlanta race, and that's just a taste of it, of course, from the end of it. And we all saw from what the race itself. Again, everybody was just absolutely on the edge of control. You had so many people that played a hand in the outcome of that were having great moments, that were getting up there and falling back, that were being factors in there. And then to cap it all off, you got Sheldon Creed with one of the longest and most notorious losing streaks in that series, and comes out there and he prevails. How many races have we seen, even for a stage caution, where somebody slips by because there's an incident with the leaders, and, then keeping track of who's actually up front, and everybody in that booth, including Adam, jumped right on it and brought it right in there. I loved it. I loved it. It was everything. That is what you need to do. Now, I'm not saying you do that about just every little moment, because, that's not the way the racing is there. But when it gets big at the end, when there's a lot of drivers that are right up there, I should be absolutely on the edge of my seat, because it's what everything is happening here at the end. And that is such a good way to do it, because and it's so important to do it now, because we have this, we don't have the playoffs anymore. Thank God. We have the chase format, which I'm coming around to, I'll admit, because it has enough elements of a full season championship that you need moments like this. You need to build on things from one race to the moment, or one season to the other. If you're going to bring up Jesse Love, you're going to bring up the fact that he won the championship last year. If you're going to bring up Austin Hill, you're going to bring up the fact that he's won here 6 times. And having the presence of mind to bring it up as it's happening at the most effective moment in the sequence there. It's one thing to watch it and know that it's coming and then come up with the moments afterwards. But I'm told that they did this remotely, which shocks me, honestly. I mean, the fact that they were able to do that, I wouldn't take. I hope this doesn't become as an endorsement to do it remotely, because I can only imagine how much even better it would be in person. But that was really good. That was really, really good. I knew if I were in the other room, I would be like running in here to find out what the hell was going on, because I'm hearing all these other names of Retzlaff being up there and Sheldon Creed being up there and Austin Hill making another one of these crazy moves to try to win another race and all that. So good. That was everything that it needed to be. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. It helps to have something to point at. I've tried to articulate that in other videos here. And again, of the people that we've had, Adam has always been very, very close in that sense. And as I've said, the guy knows his stuff, And, we've heard some moments before. The one that came to mind to me of his calls was where Brennan Poole looked to have won at Talladega, and then he got screwed over on a yellow line, frozen field thing there with Elliott Sadler, and it turned out not to work. He has, like Mike Joy does, a good eye for somebody that, where the win is going to be really, really meaningful. And it's wonderful that he doesn't show such partisanship, that he sounded every bit as excited about Austin Hill scoring yet another win up there. And because he pulled off a hell of a move to get the lead to begin with, and then when he has Creeds, he's just hanging in there and does the call, just perfect. That's what you want. That's what you want. I mean, and we've had moments in these last few years that have been worthy of it, in the Truck Series, in the O'Reilly Series, in the Cup Series, and we haven't always had that. And, that's what you really need to have. And when you have a full season championship that does not have all these trappings of elimination rounds and so forth, you are free to do that because the race now takes center stage. The points are going to take care of themselves. Who knows where the points are going to be? We got to figure out where everybody was running, and we'll talk about that, and that'll be a different discussion. But in that moment, who's doing what to who and who's getting up there, that's the big moment. And this was done so well, and I can't say enough about it there. And I'm glad that it came up in a race where the O'Reilly Series cars were, really, really dicing it up out there from beginning to end. Very, very compelling. That whole 20-minute highlight reel video is just cinema. Like, they were absolutely fun to watch. And, it didn't require a bunch of big wrecks. It didn't require overtime finishes. It didn't require any of that stuff. It had just a good green flag racing out there, and it put on a show. So I was very, very pleased with that. And I do want to mention that. So yeah, that was good. That was really, really good. So I hope that we get more of that, because we definitely need it in other series. The Truck Series did not have a moment like that. Now, admittedly, partially because of a quirk of the rules as well, and we'll get into that shortly. But I want to finish getting into more of the O'Reilly Series race, and we'll get into the Truck Series here very soon. So let me bring... so again, Corey Day in 4th, Jesse Love 5th, Ross Chastain, Sam Mayer, Raja Carruth, Taylor Gray, and Brandon Jones rounding out your top 10. Austin Hill back to the 12th spot after a great save there. Good job by Garrett Smithley just outside the top 10, the 14th spot, and the number nothing. Good to see him back out there as well. Mentioning Chad Fincham in the 17th place run there for the Joey Gase effort. Brennan Poole in 19th. Looking further back, other drivers that had more bad luck there as well. Back to about 25th place there for the cars that were left. Don't really have, too much more really to say on that one. This show may become a bit hard and fast here this time around, and we'll do that. Now, the Truck Series race, getting into that, the complexion of the racing we had in that, Kyle Busch winning yet another Truck Series race, taking candy from a baby on that one. Still not a big fan of it. I know he's going to do another several races here in the spring, and NASCAR's wavering on that rule change, which is not great because you're going to get finishes like this. And the unfortunate deal in this one, and again, nobody's entitled to anything, but if we're talking about great storylines throughout this field, Stuart Friesen was so much fun to watch in the first part of that Saturday race there. We're talking only the second race back from that serious injury, and serious injury it was in that big block modified race last summer. Him getting back out there in the 52, challenging for the lead against Kyle Busch, getting up there. He was very impressive out there. And unfortunately, at the end of the race, we really didn't get a sense of what on earth was happening with him. It turned out he had a tire going down, was dropped back to the tail end of the field, and the cap of his tire actually flew into the pack of trucks coming across the checkered to take the checkered flag there. It turned out to be kind of a mess there at that point. Luckily, he was able to keep the truck on the track there and finish in the 20th spot, still on the lead lap there at the same time. Carson Hocevar being a good co-pilot there, helping Kyle Busch stay up front. Giovanni Ruggiero in the 3rd spot, Ben Rhodes in 4th, and Corey Heim in 5th. Now, a lot of the discussion about this race here has involved the rule change that they had in place about having the race and prior to its scheduled distance because of the early trying to cram in the O'Reilly Series race at the same time, weather delays, not having overtime finishes. I honestly don't have a problem with this rule change, but I understand that there's a difference from what the drivers and the teams are experiencing versus what we see on TV. I think on TV there certainly has to be some kind of a timer so that we understand what the hell is going on, and the fact that the caution, the white flag is going to come out at some point here, when we get close to it being whatever the time is. And I appreciated Fox for updating us on that, but not really showing a countdown. We really needed to have that and just have it stay on the screen there at the same time. Now, I'm not a fan of the caution clock. I'm not a fan of timed races. I think it's it's antithetical to the way racing is, where it's a set distance. You're trying to reach that distance before anybody else. You get 24-hour races, and so forth, and that's exciting for its own its own element of that too. That's just more of an element of endurance, but I think don't have that endurance as much in a shorter race, so it doesn't really fit as much. But I get having this restriction in there where, say it's a race at Pocono, it's been raining all day. We're going to just try to get as far as we can. But if it comes down to this time, then the white flag's going to come out. We can probably follow that pretty easily, but it's hard to communicate that to the drivers. I know Corey Heim came out and seemed very upset about how this played out. I know Jeff Gluck was making a post about it, and it seemed like he was getting a lot of crap about that. But I don't see a problem with it with as long as they're being as transparent about it as possible and saying, look, it's going to end at this time, but you got to give some kind of a ballpark for the teams to work with. If they're counting on setting up a run and maybe they're 15th and they think they got 30 laps to get up to the front, but it turns out they only have maybe 25 or 20 laps to get to the front, and all of a sudden that white flag comes out, it's like, oh wait, it's over, and now I got to just get what I can. That's a difficult situation. I don't know what more could be done to make that easier for the drivers. I certainly don't think you could work out something where they have a timer on their dashboard to keep track of it, or something like that. But what doesn't bother me too much about it is it's almost kind of like going back to, racing to the caution flag kind of thing, where if a caution flag came out at the end of a race back in the day, you'd be able to actually at least get to the finish line. Maybe the last 2 or 3 laps are under caution, but you still got that moment where, the white flag, the caution flag comes out, and you have that moment to at least get what you can in that moment. Maybe you didn't get as much as you expected to, but you had to know that this was going to be a factor. I hope they were at least informed of this before. It seemed like it was brought up right at the start of the race, but if as long as the drivers were informed that, okay, we know that, time may be a factor. We know that if there's going to be other cautions, it's going to push us right up against that limit. As long as they're informed about it, I really don't have a problem with it, and I thought it was interesting. I thought it was interesting too, because you're kind of calculating it. You're looking at it here. It's like, okay, there's 40 laps left. Maybe they're like 30-second laps, or maybe it's less than that. Maybe it's like 20-second laps. And they have maybe 12 minutes left to get to that point. Are they going to be able to get there? It's like, well, maybe they'll get there with 5 to go. Maybe they'll get there with 3 to go. That was interesting. To me, that was interesting. But I can see how it'd be frustrating for the teams. But as long as they're made aware of it, I think that's the important thing. I got the sense from Heim's interview that maybe that wasn't the situation. But that was kind of the deal there too. Again, for us, they needed to show the timer on there, but I don't know if that was that's something that needs to be on there. But again, I don't know how much that would really help the teams or the drivers in that sense. The other part of it, again, unfortunately, is the broadcast, and we have to make a comparison here with how that one was playing out. Now, I don't think we need to play as much here. Okay, we do have like the timed racing when it came down to like the last couple of minutes, but I do want to kind of get, that might be kind of a good way to do it. I thought what was interesting, we have the, actually, I'm pointing at this. I should probably show what I'm pointing at. Looking to the second screen again. So we have the I guess the international feed here, and it shows the timed race element pop up at the top left of the screen. There it is there, below the race name. And in this one, when it was live, it was showing the green and yellow distance and caution graphic there. And when it got down to the last couple laps, it kind of stretched out that last little bit, and it showed, okay, this is the last lap, or this is 2 laps to go. Which again would be, kind of like the 24 hours of Daytona race. And again, I that made it understandable enough to me. But what do we get from the play-by-play at the same time?
Look at Ben Rhodes up there with a shot at this race at the end.
Big run by Kyle Busch, going to go to the bottom. Going to get to second.
Busch.
He's going to get side by side with
There
Ben
he
Rhodes.
comes.
Might even clear Ben Rhodes through 3 and 4. He does.
He does it. Kyle Busch clears Ben Rhodes.
And that caught Ben Rhodes
There
off
you
guard. No one thought that a run could be that big to go from that bar back and actually clear the leader.
You got to take it. Yeah.
And he does.
I don't know if he's going to
Ben
pull it
Rhodes
off. No, he's not going to pull it off. He's not going to clear Kyle Busch.
Trying to clear the best in the business when it comes to Truck Series racing.
Ricky Stenhouse did a great job. He forced Ben into a move. He didn't have an option. He had to make a move and forced himself in the second. You see Hocevar trying to pull it off down
Yeah,
there.
say something about Hocevar coming. I mean, there's so much that's still happening here. Like you already have a difficult situation here with this in this Truck Series broadcast. And if you have, excuse me, if you have a situation here at the end where it's Kyle Busch and it looks like he's heading to another win, think about this compared to the O'Reilly Series race. At the end of that one, it looked like Austin Hill was going to be on to yet another win. It's like, oh my God, here's a guy who just has this endless advantage here. And doubly so in this one here with Kyle Busch. But you got to make it exciting at some point. Don't just tell me this is exciting or something. Really ramp this up. You got Carson Hocevar up there. It's like, is he going to help his teammate or is he going to help him win? Is Ben Rhodes going to be able to make a move here? There's a lot of moving parts that's happening. You got to just kind of step it up. And you can already tell from this, there's not that same intensity there. Jimmy Little kind of just fits right in with the other people in the booth there. And it's not taking command of what's happening. And it just doesn't work. And it's so unfortunate because she's a great pit reporter. I'm not the only one that's been saying this here. But it just doesn't translate here. And this doesn't make for an exciting finish.
No.
Ben Rhodes is still in this thing. You can put a blanket over them.
And the bottom is suddenly.
I mean, she's trying. I mean, those are good phrases to use. You can throw a blanket over them. But tell me who's here, which person, specifics. We got so much from the Adam Alexander one about like Sheldon Creed's winless streak and Nick Sanchez winning it the year before and Jesse Love winning the championship the year before and why it means something to get a good run in this race. And if anybody can do anything to stop Austin Hill, that should be the same thing here. Can anybody take this win away from Kyle Busch, or is he going to rack up yet another win? You could even bring up, I mean, it's easy to think about this after the fact, but how about this here? You have Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in another truck, coming into the Truck Series here, relatively new to the series. Stenhouse was the one that took the Daytona 500 from Kyle Busch just a couple of years ago. Busch won at the end of regulation, would have won the Daytona 500, went into overtime, big wreck happened, Stenhouse gets the win. Do something with that. Understand the interactivity between these drivers. But we really just don't get that
more
here.
trucks, right? I mean, it's all even right now.
The white flag will fall next time by. That will be the last lap
Ben
of
Rhodes
this
lose,
race.
super lose.
Okay, well, yeah, all right, that's good, but get through that. They're coming to the white flag, more actively.
That's going to destroy the bottom lane. They're not going to get any help down the back. Kyle Busch is going to be clear coming to the white flag. The Hocevar going to try to back up. Not really backing up to the 17. Kyle's going to guard
And
it.
not as dicey as the O'Reilly
Here
race, but
comes
again,
Ben
you got to
Rhodes.
work with it.
One last look at it. Gio Ruggiero behind the 77. Kyle Busch out of turn 4. Checkered flag is in the air. Kyle Busch wins it.
And see, again, you can see that tire coming off the 52 truck. We didn't really hear anything. I mean, I know this is highlights of it. Didn't really get any sense of what was happening to him after he was so close to the front of the pack. Who's falling back? Who's up front? You can't just sit on it there.
For the 9th time in the Truck Series at Echo Park Speedway.
I mean, what? You got Stenhouse dropping back there at the end, too? Like, what on earth was going on? I mean, it's
Any help down the back.
you just got to work. You got to work with it. And it's so lackluster and it's so frustrating. Again, was this the best race ever? Certainly not compared to the O'Reilly Series race, but man, it wasn't as boring as they made it sound. We don't need another, frustrating situation with that. So I don't know. It's really unfortunate, and it just doesn't make for a compelling watch. And it really makes you wonder. I mean, for me personally, at least it makes it sound like, okay, people are going to start to ask questions about why these Cup Series guys are in these lower series. It's like, well, it's not to bring the excitement if the booth can't even be excited about it. Yeah, it's worlds apart. If you never even watch the Truck Series race, you'll get a little bit from this saying, oh, okay, Kyle Busch has won this a few times. You wouldn't know that he's a Cup Series regular. You maybe suspect that from how handily he's covering the field here. But what's everybody else racing for? What's everybody else doing in that equation? Again, it's not as good of a race as the O'Reilly race, but you can't rely on that. You got to really step up that moment and show that this is the critical moment. And doubly so since the race is ending earlier than expected. You can really work with that. Saying like, who's going to be stranded? It's like, oh, this person wanted to get up there, but he couldn't do it. Or, this person's trying to hang on to the finish. And does he have enough time? Way more is happening than you may seem like it there. So it's frustrating. But there you go. That's definitely another part of it there at the same time. In terms of the Truck Series race itself, and we'll get into more of the running order from this. I'll move the screens around here, and we'll get the running order from that. Whoop, where did my mouse go? See it on the top. Where'd it go? Okay, forget it. We're just going to do it this way. And we'll pull up the rest of the race results from the Truck Series race there. So again, Kyle Busch, your winner. Carson Hocevar hanging on there in the second spot, kind of setting things up there today. Ty Dillon, just outside the top 10, driving the same Ram entry that Tony Stewart drove last week. Justin Haley getting the top 10 for Ram. Good effort for him. John Hunter Nemechek had some good moments here in this race as well when he was kind of fighting to get Stuart Friesen up front. Saw some good teamwork out of that organization as well. But further back, just plenty of drivers just with bad luck. Much lower attrition in this one here with only about, looks like 5-6 drivers out of the race in this one. Christian Eckes with terrible luck at the beginning of it. A transmission failure, sounded like a drive shaft issue initially. Turns out he just had first and second gear, but no third and fourth gear. Had the reverse gear. There was no way they were going to be able to do a transmission swap that quickly. Mechanical issues taking him out of the race. One thing that was kind of entertaining to listen to at the beginning was not Dawson Sutton's team, but Caleb Costner's team. The ARCA Series competitor, ran a few races for Mike Harmon last year, came back this year fielding his own truck. They had several issues early on. Had a start violation that cost him a lap, had a fuel leak that cost him additional laps. And the team was just really trying to rally each other together. Their spotter was just so animated over the radio saying like, oh man, we got a really good truck out there. We just have all this terrible luck. But they're going to put those notes away. They'll be that much better the next time out. And hopefully, that's going to be something they can work with. Love seeing new teams in the sport, especially if it's an underdog driver like that out there. And I'm glad that there's still room for that somewhere in this sport because that's where you get to have a lot of fun there. But he ends up in the 33rd spot, out with handling issues among the bottom 5 there. But again, Christian Eckes, last place finish, his first last place finish in trucks after he had 2 in the O'Reilly Series last year, the colleague effort. Just a freak deal. I anticipate that 91 truck is going to be very tough this year. Eckes was so good in that 19 truck there for the McAnally team. I think he's so happy to be back in that series again, back to kind of his comfort zone. I just hate he had so much bad luck in the colleague effort last year. But again, got to kind of talk about that in the article. That was already posted late last night. Got it tweeted about this morning. Same deal for the O'Reilly article on Kyle Sieg. So if you're interested in the rest of the story on that, you can check that out there at the same time. Looking at other drivers through the field here. Mentioned Stuart Friesen, the 20th place finish. Caden Honeycutt with some bad luck there as well. Just not quite in the mix there for the win. But that team's going to be a hard one to keep down. Oh, my goodness. Wearing myself out here from all the action from this weekend here, too. Yeah. So, yeah, relatively clean race there. Just mechanical issues there throughout the field. So again, truck race, not really the best one of the weekend, but the O'Reilly race, just outstanding. So that was definitely a fun thing to watch there too. So let me get trying to bring it up here. Can we get the browser back up? New window on that. There we go. There we are. We want to get that pulled up here at the same time. So, getting into other action, we're kind of catch up on some other stories there from last week as well. Of course, I don't want to ignore the elephant in the room here. One of the losses that we had this past week, of course, the passing of the late, great Robert Duvall, a.k.a. Harry Hogg, the character that stole the show in Days of Thunder. I am bringing out my Lou Creates, Harris Lou designed Rubbin' His Racing shirt here for the show here today. So definitely wanted to fly the colors here for that. Just an incredible actor. I'm glad that so many people, especially even younger people, maybe that weren't as exposed to his work in film and learning the fact that he was in The Godfather, or Falling Down, or To Kill a Mockingbird when he was Boo Radley those many years ago, Apocalypse Now, just a tremendous career of any actor out there. And for him to have such a lasting legacy in motorsports from the role that he had in Days of Thunder as well. And, all those scenes there, definitely watched the movie there this week. And it was fun rekindling that. But yeah, what a tremendous career there as well. And was able to celebrate that at the same time. So that was definitely one thing to recall from this past week. Going into other notes here at the same time. I mean, yeah, the car building scene in Days of Thunder was a definitely a key moment for me. That was definitely what gravitated me to the sport there too. So that was another one at the same time. Kind of a couple of, let's see. Another thing I kind of shared earlier this week. So February 18th, of course, also came up this week, and with it, the 25th anniversary of the loss of Dale Earnhardt in the accident on the final lap of the Daytona 500. I had thought about doing some other kind of video or some other kind of production this week. My original plan was to release that 500 Days episode on Talladega that day. I kind of had misgivings about that because I felt that would kind of, it's certainly about Earnhardt and Earnhardt's legacy in that sense, but it didn't feel right to release it that day, especially stretching out that much further from when I was announcing the video itself. So I decided to move it back to Speed Weeks there. And because of that, I didn't really have anything else planned at the time. I did, however, enjoy kind of going through my archives and finding some old pictures and so forth from that era. I would have loved to have that ready back on Wednesday. I was just absolutely slammed with work that day there, so we didn't quite get that up. But if you haven't checked out the pictures yet, I posted those on Twitter, and it's a pinned tweet on my account at LastCarOnBrock. Posted pictures from Dale Earnhardt's only road course win at Sears Point in 1995, and remembering the emotions of that day, everybody just standing up when he was passing Mark Martin in the carousel and cheering as he came by there. Just a tremendous moment there at the track, and one that the racetrack themselves brought up there at the time. And shared some other pictures from other races that we saw there, looking at the grandstands there as Earnhardt came by in 94. Other shots from 99 and 2000 to 2001. And I'm going to have more pictures for my collection when we get to the episode on Sears Point in 2001 there as well for that series. So we got that brought up there at the same time. So again, apologies for not having anything really new for that day, but I felt like, again, really that was much more of day of remembrance than anything. And I didn't feel like there was anything I could confidently produce in the short term that would be good enough for the moment there at that time too. But I appreciate those of you that were checking out 500 Days, especially episode 3, as well as checking out Rick Houston's series Firestorm that talked about the events of the 2000 and the 2001 seasons there. He did release that as a podcast a few years ago, had some very interesting interviews as well as personal memories. You kind of get, from my viewpoint in 500 Days, is more the fan viewpoint and what was publicly available on like J-Ski and so forth. But from Rick's, I mean, he was, again, a media member at that time, knew Adam Petty, met with Tony Roper and his family, really kind of has a different viewpoint on those events there too. So I encourage you to check out that series. I don't know if he's released the second episode yet. I know he had the first one on Adam Petty that was shared there as well. So that was an interesting one there to talk about. So definitely check that out. Yeah, I thought about doing like a stream on that day too. I didn't want to make everybody watch 2001 500 again. That didn't feel right. I thought about maybe doing one for the 95 Sears Point race. But by the time I kind of thought about doing that, it was already pretty late. And I'm like, let's not do that there too. But I did find the old newspapers, and I sent those pictures up there online because I was kind of going through my archives anyway for some other projects there too. And that was our local paper back when I lived in the Bay Area. And and again, there was some moment that was mentioned in the FS1 documentary. It said like, oh, San Francisco, they didn't even know how to spell Earnhardt back then. It's like, no, we had a good amount of NASCAR coverage back then there too. And certainly when this happened, it sent shockwaves just as much here as it did on the East Coast. And I wanted to illustrate that as well. So I hope you guys were interested in that there at the same time when I was sharing those pictures at the same time. A little bit of cleanup here from some of the storylines from Daytona, and some of these carried over into Atlanta, and I want to kind of touch on those too. There was a lot of discussion and frustration over the fuel savings in the Daytona 500, and as I said on the show here last week, I was perfectly content with the way the Daytona 500 played out. I wasn't nearly as upset about the fuel mileage as a lot of people seem to be. And it seemed like that was even kind of building up into this race and saying like, okay, is everybody racing as hard as they can, or are they saving fuel? And it didn't seem like that was as much of a factor. Again, I really didn't have a problem with it at the time. I'm not saying that it wouldn't be better if they weren't. I mean, certainly, that would be the case. But my viewpoint with that is that these teams are going to manipulate whatever they can to gain an advantage. And that's just the name of the game. And if you think that that hasn't happened in the past, I guarantee you that it was. It was just that the pool of what you could manipulate was a lot more. Was it something you could do with the body of the car, or something you could do that would get past the inspectors or something like that? But you need to remember that nucleus of things that you can change is so small now, where you have spec cars and everything is examined and you got all these other rules and regulations. Thankfully, some of them getting trimmed away or being interpreted a little bit more loosely, but it's so narrow now. That's the same reason you see a picture of a car when they reveal a paint scheme and they blur out what the brakes look like, or what the suspension looks like. Is there a lot you can do with it? Probably not, but whether it's a big team or a small team, they all cover that up, because it could spell the difference between, being at the back of the field or the middle of the field, or, being a contender for the lead there too. And indeed, what we're hearing from this lawsuit here between Joe Gibbs Racing and their former employee there as well, that kind of information, is massively important, and it may be way less than it was before. So, again, I really didn't have a problem with it. I know it must be frustrating for the drivers out there when you had Toyotas leading 3 lanes and nobody can go below the yellow line to get by anybody, and nobody can break up the pack or try to get up there. But they're all going to do what they can. It's always interesting to me to see what these drivers and teams are going to do, because the distance, it's going to, sometimes you're going to have overtime and it's going to be longer than that, but it's always going to be 500 miles. And, what you're going to need to do to get there to outwit everybody else, that should be part of it. And if it's not 3 wide and fuel mileage, it's going to be single file, and they're just, doing the choo-choo train around the track, and nobody liked that. Or 2-car tango, and nobody liked that. It's like, okay, what's it going to be? It's going to be something else. So I'm trying to be mindful of that and roll with it, because that's part of the evolution of the sport. And okay, maybe next year they'll figure out something else and it won't be fuel mileage and they'll make the cars go faster. Well, maybe they're going to be single file again. Maybe they're going to do 2-car tango again. You got to roll with a certain amount of strategy. I think it's a little unreasonable to expect that it's going to be 100% all the time. Because it's just not going to be. The best strategy. We saw this with Kyle Busch last week, and they brought it up in the broadcast here too, where he sensed there was going to be a big wreck. He was not going to rush in there and be in the middle of 3 wide and get wadded up in it and finish, 30th or something. He backed off, got a run at it, and he ended up getting a 15th place finish out of it. I mean, that kind of strategy should be rewarded. I mean, not everybody is going to be doing the same thing. They don't have to be in one big log jam where nobody can do anything. I really don't think it's a problem. I really don't. I was amazed at how angry people were getting about it after the race. And it's just like everybody, the venom about it. I'm like, I'm sure people are probably looking at my channel and being like, oh, well, Brock seems like he complains about everything. I'm like, I'm not complaining about that. Like I really don't have a problem. I enjoyed last week's 500. I had a great time watching. I would have loved it if there wasn't a wreck at the end. But as I said, if you have you dangle a Harley J. Earl in front of 6 cars and all 6 of them think they can get to that line first, yeah, you're probably going to get a crash. So I left that. I was, had a wonderful evening, and I was very surprised how many people were angry about that. But again, I've never been a good bellwether of what pisses people off. So I guess that's just kind of another one to bring up. There were a couple other incidents that were happening in that race that I was not aware of when we were doing the stream, and I do want to touch on these. I don't want to dig it up too much here from that. You get we had the Daniel Suarez interview, and there was somebody that was, jumping into the shot there. You don't do that. I mean, the TV interviews or something like that. I don't care what the person says or what the person's motivation was. I think that's a whole other. I honestly don't think that matters. I think if he came up there to congratulate Suarez and was, patting him on the shoulder, you probably don't. I mean, even if that was well-meaning, probably don't want to be doing that, especially when they're, in the middle of an interview. I mean, you don't want to be distracting from that. There's a time and a place. I put it in the same category as that reporter for the Jacksonville Jaguars over the offseason there, where she wanted to be, putting, giving a pat on the back there to the coach there. You don't do that in that moment. It's just a time and a place. If the guy did that afterwards and he's seeing Suarez walking through the infield and did that, I don't think anybody would be talking about it. And it's unfortunate because, yeah, it sounds like, people are really out to figure out who this person is and all that other stuff. And I hate, when things go that direction. But I understand in this case, you don't want to encourage other people to be doing that because, yeah, people are out there in the media. They're trying to get these interviews done. And then there's a very, very limited time that you have to do that as well. That's the thing. That moment may pass immediately after there too. And so there needs to be an understanding from there. So it's unfortunate. I'm the way that worked out there, but yeah, there was that. Then there was the person that threw the ashes at the finish line too. I thought that was an AI video at first. So I wasn't sure to comment on it, but it looks like it was real. Again, I said at the time, and there were other people kind of in this a similar camp to this. I grit my teeth about that. I'm like, you really don't want to do that. And again, I think, unlike the person that interrupted the interview, this was perhaps a more well-meaning thing. But I mean, we can certainly get, I also at the same time don't want to get into a whole discussion about, what's appropriate way to handle ashes or desecration of them. Certainly you have moments where, again, if this one here went through the proper channels, if they talked to the racetrack, I'm sure they could have worked something out, whether, they wanted to just scatter ashes in the infield, excuse me, or at the track property or something of that level. Or if the track just said no, and they couldn't do it there. Certainly something could have been worked out there. Trying to do something like that at the finish and, throw it on the track where it's the windiest 500 we've had in recent memory, where it's blowing back into the stands. You certainly don't want it to be in a situation where it's going to get up into the crowd and all that. Horrible. No, you can't be doing that. And it's really not good. And you don't want to encourage people doing that either. These are things that ideally you would think that people would just kind of understand not to do. That's kind of what both these stories seem to have in common. But, I guess these days in the social media era or whatever else is happening, it's unfortunate what happens with that. And it's also unfortunate that they're probably going to end up, people trying to ban these people from the track or something like that. In some cases, maybe that's what needs to happen in that case. But yeah, that's kind of where we are. So, do we have tech inspection complete? Oh, you're just kidding. Yeah, I don't know. So I don't know. It's a different deal with all that. Yeah, it's mostly what I had from the notes from that there too. Oh gosh, we still have 100 viewers in here. Thank you so much for tuning in here. We'll do some trivia here as well if you guys want to stick around on that. I'll do super chats as well. Oh, we got a couple super chats. I got to catch up on those. So thank you so much on those as well. We'll catch up to that. Yeah. Oh, the guy with the 2 pairs of sunglasses. Yeah, that was weird too. I don't know. See, the other issue, kind of bringing up the Suarez guy too. I mentioned this on social media after it happened. NASCAR does give a wonderful amount of access. I know it's sometimes hard to get it. It's hard to get it as a media member too sometimes. We had that issue at Rockingham and Talladega last year. We don't want to lose the ability to get as much access to the sport as possible, whether you're a fan, whether you're a media member, or anything else. Moments like that jeopardize that, whatever the thing is, because it's like it's the same reason that they have those bollards, those gates or whatever that they set up next to the cars on pit road, because somebody went over there and screwed with one of the cars, and now nobody can get that close to them. It's a thing like that, because yeah, I mean, you don't want to be the person that ruins it for other people. In that sense. And again, I really could care less what the man was saying. I don't think that's relevant. We could get another discussion about that, but you just don't do it. Time and a place. So again, I don't want to batter that too much because it's old news at this point. But that's a different one there too. Let's see. Do we have a call-on inspection? I'll check that. I need to get another window open here. To pull that up. I thought I was going to have way more to say on the show here today, given everything that happened this week. But again, it just kind of happened so fast and furious, and definitely wanted to kind of replay the broadcast from this here too. So that was it. Oh yeah, we can talk about the Marvin Fanch thing here too briefly. The caption on this. I can't believe they would get the name of a California Daytona 500 winner wrong on that broadcast and keep that graphic up that whole time. I found that pretty irritating. People make mistakes. Although the F and the P are pretty far away from each other on a keyboard looking at it here. So I don't know what the situation was. And yeah, R. Moore, I'm seeing your comment on there. Yeah, no practice. That needs to be revisited here. It was certainly a problem for Adam Andretti in the truck race. I hated to see him struggle out there. I'm sure it was a problem for Caleb Costner and the deals that they were working out on their truck team. That's another thing that needs to be looked at. Yeah. But yeah, the Marvin Fanch thing, that was just silly. Especially with the history. Come on, like let's show a little more care for moments like that too. So that'll be another one to look at. Excuse me. My goodness, that's just get a little bit more water here for the rest of this. Oh, we have a call on inspection already. Let's pull that up. I'll get some water here in the meantime. All righty. Yeah, Fox doesn't care if they're accurate. Yeah, well, that's probably the case. All right. Yep, there it is. Yes, 4 minutes ago from Bob Pockrass's page here. Tech is complete in the Cup Garage. No issues. Tyler Reddick is the winner. And therefore, so yes, last place finisher will be Josh Berry, his first of this season. Bubba Wallace and Ryan Preece's cars will go to R&D is on there too. So that'll be another one on there. So yeah, so again, congratulations to Tyler Reddick. And again, the article later tonight will be on Josh Berry, and we'll have more updates on that at the same time. I had a couple accounts kept posting some GIFs here for the last place finishers. I don't know if it's a bot or something else, but harmless enough. I don't think there's a problem with that. People excited about the last place finishers. That's good. Hopefully it's something like that. So that would be another one too. It was interesting with the Josh Berry one with the last place finish at Daytona. Last place finish at Atlanta, today. I think it was somebody else that was pointing out that Josh Berry was the only driver, or one of the only drivers. Maybe it was somebody else. Maybe Bubba Wallace. Well, no, Bubba got in an incident too. But somebody else that wasn't involved in any incidents in the duels or the Daytona 500. It was just Josh Berry. And, of course, what happens? He gets involved in the first, race-ending wreck of this one here and gets collected in that. So just shows how unpredictable this season's going to be. And I think that's another way to look at that here at the same time. Let's see. We'll bring out our trivia deal here. And let's see. Oh, yeah, we did the tracks, I think, last week. So, once again, we'll bring out our late 90s Trivial Pursuit deal, do a couple of questions off of that. Categories, once again, are NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. I'll read off Super Chats while everybody makes their picks. So go ahead and mention it in the chat, and we'll jump into that and go from there. Yep, Jimmy, I agree. I think that the Adam Alexander's call was great. Just broke that down a little while ago. So, yeah. Let's see here. Bringing this up here. I think this is the first one here. Yes. Okay, here we go. Yep. So Michael Jensen, 1817 for $5. Thank you very much for your super chat on here. Gotta say, the Adam Alexander, Jamie Mack, and Parker O'Reilly call was an all-time classic. I am also a big fan of the new PRN lead, Nick Yeoman. I have not listened to Nick yet. That's something I need to check out. I always have some races that I do them remotely there. I'll have to listen to that one there at the same time. But yeah, absolutely agree. All-time classic for the O'Reilly call. When you get the drivers where their voices are squeaking and they're going up octaves and stuff like that. And again, it's not doing it over everything. This isn't Formula One. You don't just scream because somebody made a pass for fifth place. No, it's like, there's when it's actually getting exciting, when it is. And that's a wonderful thing with NASCAR, whatever the division is, it brings those moments up. So yeah, definitely agree, Michael. And again, thank you for the super chat on that. Andrew D-Man, again, thank you for joining the bottom 10 finishers. I think I mentioned that one there as well. So I appreciate your membership. Beast of Metal, thank you for your super chat for $10. Very much appreciated. Fox should be stripped of their NASCAR deal and IndyCar and any other races they have after whatever they did to get the last 10 laps of the truck race canned. Atlanta has lights, screw their window. Well, I understand your frustration. And I know that, yeah, it was eye-opening that they did this whole window deal where, yeah, they can push the O'Reilly race that much later in the day, get the rest of the truck race in. Or is it really a matter of 10 laps that's going to really screw up the entire schedule? I don't know. I honestly, again, I didn't have problems with it. I thought it was interesting. I thought I treated it like a late race caution if it would end the race early. I know there were some drivers that weren't happy about it, like Corey Heim. Again, there is a lot that Fox should be criticized for. If they had too much of a hand in that and having that play out, I treat it more like a track situation there, and they just wanted to make sure both races were in. I don't know if they have a curfew at the end of the night there to get the O'Reilly Series race in, but yeah, if it's too much about the network, I'm with you there. I get it, and Fox being very dismissive about the sport, certainly their booth, not being up to snuff there. That I think that very much deserves criticism there too. And if this is a consequence of that, yeah, it should be called out more. But again, I honestly didn't have that much of a problem with it. Much like the fuel mileage thing last week, I was kind of surprised how many people kind of got their backs up about it there. Kyle Busch was probably still going to win it anyway. I'm not going to take the viewpoint of, it's just the truck series, it doesn't matter. I don't agree with that. I think that's not the appropriate angle. I just think that if you're making the drivers aware of it, if it's like, okay, this is coming up, I don't have a problem with it. If they were kept in the dark about it, if we're just hearing about it and it's not getting relayed to the drivers or the teams, or there's no other way they could prepare for it, yeah, I would have a problem with it. That would change my viewpoint for sure. I just don't have a good sense of that from what we saw. I know Corey Heim was upset about it. But as far as I know, they were made aware of it, and it was before the race started, and I didn't have a personal problem with it. Yeah, really, that's kind of where I am with it there too. I mean, if there's something I have a problem with, I'm not going to have a problem saying something about it here too. But I'm kind of relieved in a way, and I'm not trying to be contrary. I'm really not. I'm going to do this in good faith as best I can. It's not. I'm glad it's not everything that's infuriating to me. So that's good. That's good. As for Rick Allen being back in the booth, no, I don't miss him being back up there. Honestly, I think that he had kind of similar issues to Adam Alexander in the past, where the action would kind of outflank him. He's got a great voice, just not great awareness, and I think he was just too nice of a guy and got squeezed out of the booth. That's what I got the sense of from that interview that he did with Junior. I think that he was just a little bit too nice and letting, NBC move people around and all that. Didn't fight enough for his position. He got bumped out, and it sucks because I'm sure he is a nice guy. I like that he's building chairs for Junior's, kids and stuff like that. And I like that he's still doing the commentary at the racetrack over the PA. That's great. But it's a brutal business, and whatever Adam Alexander's doing, you need to do it the way he's doing it, because he's been able to stay in it this long and keep his foot in the door and do it for multiple different networks. You got to fight for it. And I think that's what he does. And I'm glad he did, because he did put on a fantastic call this week on the O'Reilly side. So there's that part too. Beast of Metal. Okay, I'm seeing your relation to the comments here. Slippery slope is blatant here. Starts with the trucks. In 3 years, it's the 500, all because they'd rather show, the show. Well, yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, I mentioned the 300th episode of The Simpsons was after the 2003 500. They advertised that constantly. And I really felt like in that race, they called it as early as they did so they wouldn't have to preempt The Simpsons and all that other stuff. Now, The Simpsons now at 800 episodes doesn't hold as much water, in that sense. But really, I mean, in that 2003 race, there really was a heavy storm. It was still raining well after they called it, in that situation. So yeah, I don't have a real issue with it there too. But I can see where you would have an issue with it for sure. I would hate for it to be a thing where, yeah, you have all these races cut off because of some stupid show on Fox or whatever. I couldn't care less about these shows that are on broadcast TV. I don't know who watches a lot of this stuff anymore. But yeah, again, that's another, that's a thing for another day. But I'm with you. I hope it doesn't spread if it's about windows. But if it's just a scheduling thing at the track and they wanted this race to start at a certain time, okay. But, maybe the solution is to not have all these double duty days. They're always a challenge kind of covering the last place battles from one race to the next. Maybe that's the solution. Have it be back to full days, and then you're not going to worry about preemptings because you're not going to have to worry about anything else. And maybe that would show, the networks, what this deal is. It's going to be tricky these first few weeks because we got next week, we got COTA and St. Petersburg on the same day. That's going to be tricky. So I don't know. But I definitely get where you're coming from. Bowser Jr., thank you for your super chat for $5. Don't know if you saw, but a Fox person said on Twitter today that all commercials for the Fox portion of Cup will be split screen except for local ads. I didn't see that, so thank you for bringing that up. It did seem like there were way more commercial breaks this week than last week, but at least they were side by side. I didn't have a problem with that. We saw a couple accidents unfold during the side-by-side, including the Riley Herbst accident. I felt plugged in enough to what was happening there in the race. And yeah, if it's becoming more common, and maybe this is something that continues, I'm glad they're working on it. But yeah, I didn't really have a particular problem with it this week, and I felt engaged enough in what was happening. I didn't feel like I lost track of what was occurring in the race. So yeah, more power to him on that. Let's see. I think that's the last one there. We had a new subscriber here as well. Eric Kush, thank you for subscribing to the channel as well. Yep, I think we're caught up there. Okay, so thank you very much for the super chats here on the show. We'll wrap up with some trivia. We still got 81 people in here, so we'll do that. Is drivers the winning category? Is that the one we have? Let's see. Get another category on that. Yeah, 10 laps on a drafting track in the Truck Series could take 3 hours. That's true. And I like that. I liked that as part of that rule, they didn't have overtime finishes. That's smart at the same time. I kind of liked, and I think it was Beast of Metal who suggested this last week, about, you know, when you have weather in the area to get rid of the stage cautions and use that as a leg up to getting rid of the stage cautions in general. I liked that idea a lot too. I like that NASCAR is being more proactive in how they're handling weather delays with the scheduling. I like that they did that when they moved the Clash up and they tried to cram it into one day before a storm came in. You know, I think they could have been a bit better with that at the Clash, you know, this year where they knew the snow was coming in and should have just immediately pushed it to, you know, Monday or Tuesday. You know, again, hindsight's 2020, but that's kind of where that, you know, shakes out too. Let's see here. Yes, I did get your super chat, Bowser. Thank you very much. Yeah, no, I appreciate you mentioning it there about the side-by-side commercials, the split commercials. So yes, I do appreciate you bringing that up there as well. And again, I think that did help. And I'll be curious how well it translates to other like non-super speedway tracks, especially when the field gets strung out a bit more. I imagine that'll be a bit challenging there too. So we'll see. Alrighty. I appreciate you guys tuning in here tonight. We'll do some trivia to wrap up. Was drivers really the winning category? I saw that mentioned here as well. I'll look up on here. Yeah, Jimmy, glad you appreciate that shirt there too. Again, big kudos to Harris Lou and the Lou Creatives team. They really, I mean, as the kids would say, they cooked with this one and did a fine job with it there too. I like how they worked around the branding on the 46 since that's still owned by Hendrick to show the tire marks on the side. That was a nice deal there. Beautiful design. I don't know if it's still available, but it was over at the Heatwave site. The Heatwave deal they did with the sunglass deal. I don't have as much marketing for sunglasses here on this end. I got some prescription Ray-Bans that I wear at the racetracks. Yeah, a fun promotional deal there at the same time. All right. I actually like the shorter Coda layout. I think that made the race. I thought I was going to be against it because I liked having the track really big. I don't mind big road courses. I like Road America. But I think the shorter one made it closer to kind of a short track like road course. And I hope it's still a good race this year. So we'll see. I know it was fun last year. Yeah, this one's for you, Harry. Absolutely. I think, okay, we'll do drivers in that. I'm not seeing anything else on that. Yeah, it's not great. KC Monorail, yeah, NASCAR stripping wins over technical infractions. I don't really mind, you know, that as much. I mean, it's kind of, you know, disqualifications existed for a lot of the sport's history, and you would have people disqualified for any run. I don't see treating the race winner any differently. I think you risk losing some objectivity in that sense. But that's another part to look at there too. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so we'll do some driver questions here. First one. Who are Bill Elliott's two brothers who raced with him on Georgia's short tracks? Good Georgia question to kick things off. There we go. Who are Bill Elliott's two brothers who raced with him on Georgia's short tracks? That is our first question. Yeah, I was rooting for Hocevar myself. I thought Hocevar was going to do it. After that truck race where he showed, you know, he was making some good moves and he was being a good soldier to help Kyle Busch out, I thought he was owed having a good race in this one. He was part of that three-wide battle with Josh Berry's wreck, froze the field at the end last year. I thought for sure he would jump in. Again, this is a track, you know, for better or for worse, that really rewards being overly aggressive. Even if it screws your car up, you can come right back, get on the lead lap, get back into the field. It's the same thing we saw out of Sam Mayer yesterday. We saw it out of Hocevar today. Yeah, I think that's another one. We got guesses for Roy and George, Ernie and Dan. Several for Ernie and Dan. Okay, here we go. Who are Bill Elliott's two brothers who raced with him on Georgia's short tracks And the answer is indeed Ernie and Dan. You guys got it. You guys got it. All right. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Here's a good one. Next question. Who shared the 1986 NMPA Driver of the Year Award with Dale Earnhardt? Who shared the 1986 NMPA Driver of the Year Award with Dale Earnhardt? That is our next question here. Yeah, there we are. Yeah, do we think Tyler Reddick's going to get 3 straight wins? Do we think it's going to be a potential 2009 scenario where he's going to struggle? Is he going to end up being on the last car page? We'll find out. We're ready either way. We have the graphics all ready. We'll be talking about it just as much next week, whatever the winner or whatever the last place finisher is. Who shared the 1986 NMPA Driver of the Year Award with Dale Earnhardt? We got some good guesses. Rusty Wallace got his first win that year. Darrell Waltrip. His last year was Junior Johnson. Tim Richmond. Tim Richmond with all the wins. Marvin Fanch. Ricky Rudd. We'll see. Here we go. Who indeed shared the 1986 NMPA Driver of the Year Award with Dale Earnhardt? The answer is indeed Tim Richmond. Several of you got it. J2M4S. I think you were the first one to that. No, yes. No, you put it twice. Okay. Yes, you were. Right after No Tires, Just Gas, guessed Bill Elliott on that. Also a good guess. But there you go. Let's see. Nope, not that one. Let's see. No. Oh, here's a fun one. Next question here, folks. We'll just do a couple more here, then we'll be wrapping up. Who became the first non-European world karting champion in 1978? Who became the first non-European world karting champion in 1978? I don't have too many updates on videos here at the moment. I had a script I was going to start this week. And again, this week just got away from me. I'll tell you what, it just got really, really busy. We had a snowstorm. I was touching on this on our show last Sunday that we had some winter weather coming in, and it did. It came in. We just got like a dusting of it. We got some sleet out here, but not far up the road, heading out towards Lake Tahoe. They got absolutely slammed. You may have saw some of the stuff in the news of cars getting stuck on the Donner Pass out there. And yeah, it got real hairy up there for sure. We actually have some offices in my work up in the Tahoe area. Luckily, they're safe and they're good to go up there. But it came through pretty hard. We had a snow day for our work this week that coincided on Wednesday, actually on the 18th. But just kind of catching up on some stuff here as well and getting through it. But luckily today and yesterday, much nicer weather. Making things a bit easier. So hopefully things are safe where you guys are in that deal too. But yeah, we definitely did get some pretty good storms rolling through here with some sleet and some snow. And yeah, definitely for sure. Who became the first non-European world karting champ in 1978? Several guesses for Lake Speed. And you guys are right. It is indeed Lake Speed. The need for Lake Speed. Absolutely. You got snow there on the East Coast. There we go. Yeah, Blue Moon 95. Looks like you were the first one on that one. Oh, a tornado. Oh, my goodness. Big all caps. Wow. Yeah, stay safe out there for sure. Let's see. Not that one. Let's see here. Maybe not that one. Oh, that was too easy. Come on. Batesville, Arkansas. I mean, if you say Batesville, Arkansas, it's going to sound like it's going to be a Mark Martin thing. It's like, come on. That's just a little too easy. I'm trying to give you a good one here to launch off with. Oh, okay. This is a good one. This goes back to the 1986 season that we touched on in that earlier question. We'll wrap up with this one. How many races did it take Darrell Waltrip to make up a 206-point deficit in 1985? Good full season question. How many races did it take Darrell Waltrip to make up a 206-point deficit in 1985? So we're looking for a number. How many races did it take for him to make up a 206-point deficit in 1985? This being for his third and final Winston Cup championship. This is a good one. This is a good one. Don't look it up. Try to guess it there. Kind of looking at some of the other comments here as well. Yeah, Bart Simpson waving the green flag. Yeah, that was fun. That was fun. I actually liked that. I was worried the mascot head would come off, but luckily it didn't. So they had some good plans up there. All righty. Yeah, thank you folks for tuning in here. We got 60 people here towards the end for the last trivia part here of the show, but we had a big crowd here today, so I appreciate it. Hopefully we had a lot of people come back from the Daytona race next week, and if so, I encourage you to come back next week for Circuit of the Americas. We'll talk some road racing and whatever action we have there as well, so we'll see. Get guesses for 16, and for 6, and for 8, and for 7, and for 3,977, and for 8. All righty. So here we go. How many races did it take Darrell Waltrip to make up a 206-point deficit in 1985? The answer is 10. 10. And it looks like I think only Jimmy Q7M4C got that one. 10 is the correct answer. There you go. Yeah, good guesses all around the board. We got 16, 6. Yeah, I think that was the first one. So there you go. Yeah, talking about the Alan Kowicki battle there too. Yeah, very close. Very close, everyone. Oh, good competition. All righty. I'll tell you what, well, that will about do it for the show here this evening. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Yeah, great weekend of racing, especially the O'Reilly side. I'm so happy for Sheldon Creed and the Haas Factory team. Hopefully, this is going to put them on the map, and people start talking about them a lot more. I will not take Haas Factory team disparagement on this show. So, yeah. A wonderful weekend for them. Wonderful weekend for Tyler Reddick getting his second win in a row, now official after the results of post-race inspection. And Josh Berry, his last place finish, not quite able to escape the chaos this week like last week. Kyle Busch, yeah, he got another Truck Series win too. But next week is a new deal. Circuit of the Americas for the O'Reilly Series and the Cup Series, Truck Series at St. Petersburg. Stay tuned for the Intralist Storylines article this week. That is going to be an interesting one as well, as we talk about the return of the Flying Scotsman, Dario Franchitti, as well as James Hinchcliffe, right? That's going to be running the Truck Series race. What a wonderful get there on that. Hopefully that the broadcast rises to the occasion, and we get a very interesting broadcast for that one as well. And we go left and right for the first time this season. So in the meantime, my website is at LastCarOnBrock. My Patreon is patreon.com/LastCarOnBrock. If you like one of these hats, you can check out my store at the LastCar.info page. Click on store. I almost said shop. I think I probably should, again, call it airspeed, but we'll see. Yeah, our next show will be next Sunday after the Cup Series race at Circuit of the Americas. And we'll be talking about a lot of road course racing. And we'll do some trivia, just have some fun on this show again. So Godspeed to Robert Duvall, and I'll see you all next time. That's right. Colin Brown, too. Can't forget about him. Thank you for reminding me on that, too. Woo, very exciting.